I'm going to read my mother's obituary in a couple of minutes, but before I do that, let me explain. Let me scroll down. Give me 1 second. It's Mossie Green. My name is Sholanda Green. Now let me explain the purpose of this video, and you can read the obituary for yourself or Google Mossie Green and her obituary is archived. I don't think you can do anything about that, and please do not be disrespectful towards the dearly beloved, okay? So you can read this information for yourself, or let me explain while it's here, and if you don't want to bear with me, that's fine. You get the point. I'm working on my autobiography, and I'm interested in others helping me write biographies, the difference being that I'm working on one myself, and the latter would be me encouraging as many people who are legitimately and sincerely interested in helping me write biographies based upon my life using public records. Okay, the first autobiography, if I was an important person, we could call it a memoir. It's titled Scott Survivor. There's a YouTube page called Scott Survivor and a Facebook page called Scott Survivor. Not much there. This video is going to go there as well as on my personal YouTube page. The information that's enclosed on Scott Survivor is information that confirms I am who I am in this autobiography. Okay, so go ahead and go to Scott Survivor and listen to the first video about child rape in Milwaukee. Scott Survivor is about a person, okay, that has suffered great trauma, and actually it's Scott Survivor, it's autobiographical. It's actually not, it's not going to feature me, but it's a character that's based upon true life, factual events that have happened to me. And then we dramatize this character to make it more interesting. And it starts out with a sexual assault at the age of 8 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. My mother was raped as a child. My auntie was raped as a child. My first cousin was raped as a child, but I can only speak for myself. They all happen to be dead. I'm the only one that's still alive of the relatives I've just mentioned. Can I prove that I was assaulted? Well, it was brought up in a court case. So most people that are trying to prove who they are, they use a public record because of an uncle named Burrow Clinton who wanted to come against me in a family court case, third-party custody, Green versus Bell out of Washington State, because he wanted to come against me and side with a sociopath. In my humble opinion, he brought up the fact that I accused someone of molesting me. So let's leave it at that. It's in the public record, and I'm willing to talk about it all day long. Okay, the second thing that happened to me is that I was physically assaulted the day after I buried my mother, which is Mossie Green right here. Day after this funeral happened, by her ex-husband, my ex-stepfather. His name is Pedro Bell. There's a record, police record out of Renton, Washington. I believe it's October 10th, 2003. Close enough. My name is Sholanda Green. His name is Pedro Bell. The person that physically assaulted me is not Pedro Bell, but Pedro Bell was prosecuted for the crime. He was the one that kidnapped Alexandria, and he had to physically assault me to do that. The gentleman, or I should say less than gentleman, that physically harmed me, his name is something else, but he's not a relative, and I don't even remember his last name, but it's in the record. Green versus Bell, third party custody. Okay, and it was taking place 2003. My mother's dissolution occurred in 2001. I owned the hard copy of that case in 2005, and I don't have it anymore. It should be available. It's lengthy. It was a lengthy litigation. Hopefully it's not going to be super expensive to retrieve, and I of course have rights to look at it anytime I want. Okay, so imagine burying your mother, your young mother, and then the day after that, your ex-husband, who you did not want to raise your daughter, your young daughter, because of what you knew about this man, kidnaps the daughter you didn't want him to raise and physically assaults your other daughter, me. Now, that was a big deal. That was an extremely painful period in my life. And when I finally rebounded from that experience to pull myself up by the bootstraps, I leave Washington State and I moved to California. And on January 4th, 2014, someone tries to kill me on my job. Hayward, California, Shalonda Green. January 4, 2014. Of course, I know the name of the man that tried to kill me. He was arrested for attempted murder. It was that serious. Now, it's early in the morning. I haven't had my coffee. I might sound a little bit under the weather or sad, but I'm just getting this over with before I start my day. Okay? There's three things that I need to ask myself before you ask yourself and before it's brought up. Do I feel sorry for myself? Question mark. Am I being vindictive? Question mark. Is this necessary? Question mark. Very good questions. I'm not going to answer them, but I understand you may have that in mind. So the only thing that I can do is to persevere and to get my story out there. So today I dedicate Scott Survivor to my dearly beloved mother, and you will recognize some names. Again, Green versus Bell, third party custody out of Washington State. And that occurred after my mother's dissolution to payroll bail and my near-death experience. I've had a few in Hayward, California, January 4th, 2014. These are the points that will be made when the Scott Survivor podcast debuts this summer. We're hoping for a June 23rd debut. It might be pushed back to the first week of July. Wish me luck. Mossie Green on October 3rd, 2003, following a long battle with cancer. Mossie Green left us at the young age of 52. She was born in Lambert, Mississippi, and grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. She came to the Pacific Northwest in the early 1970s to attend Seattle University, later becoming a longtime resident of the East Side. Mossie was a critical care registered nurse, most recently at Overlake Hospital. She influenced the next generation of nurses as a clinical instructor for Bellevue Community College in the late 1990s. She touched and forever altered the lives of the local medical community. Mossie Green was an adored and treasured mother and friend, a gifted poet, and a child of God. Her great spirit will continue to guide and impact the world, especially her children. Mossie was preceded in death by her mother, Doshia Mae Scott, and her brother, Larry Scott. She is survived by two daughters, Shalonda Green and Alexandria Bell, two sisters, Mary Dyson and Margaret Wilson, 7 brothers, John Randolph Jr., James Scott, Shannon Scott, Michael Scott, Burl and Gerald Clinton, and Anthony Scott. Viewing will be held from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Wednesday, October 8th at Evergreen, Washelli. And you have the address, okay? A benevolent fund for Alexandria Bell has been set up. More information will be available at Thursday's service. There's so much to talk about based upon Green versus Bell, third-party custody. I can talk to you about everything about how it was to take care of my sister after my mother died, and this abuse that we sustained, and I don't know how she feels about it now. I can name the people that betrayed my mother, and having my mother be betrayed by people that she thought were friends and she could trust after her death. Heartbreaking situations. Got over all of that, trust me. Okay? It's just a good read. It's all about the public record. You have to be very careful about who you side with on the record. It will come back to haunt you. And no, I'm not being vindictive. I'm trying to take care of myself. PTSD